Welcome, everybody, to episode 17 of Mentors on Tap. We've got a guest today, Tony McCreath down in Adelaide in the southern portion of Australia, who has been doing stuff that some of us are only vaguely aware of for many years. So, Tony's been my go-to guy for several years now on technical stuff. He knows his coding. He knows not just WordPress, but general HTML and yeah, he's my go-to guy. When something's over my head, I know who's going to have an answer. So Tony, welcome. Thank you very much. By the way, everybody,
Hi.
Tony got up at about 4 a.m. his time in order to do this because of the time difference. So you can't beat that kind of dedication.
That's the window of it's not
still
yet the
dark.
morning.
Well, introduce yourself, Tony.
Yes, I'm Tony McCreath, Adelaide, Australia. I think, like you introduced, I'm technical. I actually come from a software engineering background in telecoms. So I'm always kind of seeing things in a different angle to the average SEO in the industry, who tends to come from the marketing side. So I do look at these technical bits of the world, and yeah, I understand HTML, and I can build a website, I can build databases, I can do all that. Yeah, I write software to do SEO, and today we're talking about structured data, which is another form of a kind of another programming language to help computers understand what we're doing on our websites.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, so this is a pretty deep subject. We can't really get into it in depth. So basically, we just asked Tony to guzzle down his first cup of tea, and we're going to follow his lead. He knows enough about this to be able to hit the high points and let everybody know some of the things that are important to be aware of around structured data. So, Tony, yeah, you have the floor.
I will start. So I guess the first thing, the important thing to talk about it is why. What's the benefit for us to learn about structured data? And the big win thing at the moment, the carrot from Google and Bing and the major search engines, is they will read structured data from our websites and give us features, special features. One of the biggest ones would be review stars. That's one of the most sought after feature, is getting your nice little stars in the search results. So that's the kind of the carrot for us, the reason why a lot of webmasters, website owners want to learn about structured data to get these special features. And the reason, and it's in the name, structured data, is most web pages are very unstructured. It's the Wild West as far as you write your content. And this has made it really, really hard for search engines to understand what a page is about. So I do a lot of e-commerce. So in my case, a lot of what I'm trying to tell the search engines is this is a product page and this is a product and information about that. And if every website writes their HTML differently, the search engines just can't understand it. So they gave up effectively. They kind of went, right, we can't work this out very well. So they pulled together what's called a vocabulary called schema.org, and basically they're saying, let's formally define everything that exists in our universe that we might be interested in, and so you define lots of different things, types. So I've already mentioned product, review, other common ones are event, business or local business, organization. And so they formally defined between them all so that it's a common language, all these different types of things that they want to understand. And each thing that they defined, they also defined what properties that thing can have. So if we stick with product, pretty standard properties are, it's got a name, it can have a brand, you may make multiple offers of the product, and each offer is a different price, and maybe information on that it's a different color. And so this is all formally defined, and hence it's called structured data. You're giving a very defined, limited set of information that all the search engines, these machines they've got, have a chance to, it's a lot easier for them to process it and then use it. So going back to the reviews is, if you say that this page contains 10 reviews and the top review is 5 out of 10, the bottom review is 1, the search engine can instantly read that and then decide, I'll give them review stars. It's a lot harder if they have to kind of look around your page and go, well, that looks like a review. It might be, it might not. So they've defined this structured world. And so that's schema.org. This is the one that's endorsed by them all. So that's the vocabulary that you want to base your stuff on nowadays. And then a separate thing is the how you write it. And so the big one at the moment is called Json-Ld. And it's the one really to go for. It's related to JavaScript data language. And so anybody who's familiar with JavaScript and writing objects in JavaScript will be familiar with Json-Ld. And what's nice about it is you can define it all in a little script tag in the header of your page, and it's all standalone. It's purely information. It's purely a little data object that you put in that this is a product, this is the name of the product, these are the reviews. And this means it's a lot easier to implement. There are other ones like microdata, but the complexity there is that you have to code into the HTML, and that can be quite difficult. I've found I've implemented a lot in quite a few of these languages, and you have problems that if you're using microdata, you're actually it's in the HTML, which means if you update your theme or if you change theme, you've lost all your structured data. So we actually in the past had to charge clients every time they updated their theme to go back in and re-implement their structured data. Whereas now with Json-Ld is they change the theme and then we just insert it back into the top of it. It's a lot simpler, not dependent on look and things. Yeah, so to recap on that, schema.org defined what you can define, and then Json-Ld is the style, the syntax that you write it in, and then the search engines or other machines can come to a page, they look for your Json-Ld at the top. If they find it, they'll process it and then do what they want. And yeah, so the big thing there is to know, what should I mark up? And if you Google schema, that's a good phrase to search, and you'll find all the Google documentations on the types of things that they're looking for and what awards they will give you for it. And so that could be your products, your reviews, events. That's a big one. You can mark up jobs and get these special feature snippets or rich snippets showing what events are coming up, or trying to think of other jobs. Carousels often. So when you're on a mobile and you see a sideward scrolling piece of, like it might be a bunch of news articles, often they come from structured data that you add on the website, which is basically, say, a list of articles or a list of events and things. And these are all, if you look into the Google documents, there's a nice list on the side that basically says these are all the different types of things we're looking for. if you click on one, you'll see an example of the features, examples of the code, so you can literally copy paste and then change the text to match what yours is in the simpler cases. And yeah, that's probably the best place to go. And so what I'd recommend is focus on what Google supports, and don't go too deep. It's why make it complicated when you're not going to get rewarded? So look at the list of the features Google supports, and see which ones suit what your business is. Like in my case, it's review stars and price. And I think that covers the general idea. Does that conjure up any questions?
Well, Tony, one question I have seen come up in groups on Facebook and in discussion groups is, like so many things in SEO, there's always somebody who's really stubbornly repeating the same issue, and whether it's right or wrong doesn't seem to bother them. So it raises a lot of questions in some people's mind as to whether there's any direct ranking benefit from using structured data markup. And I think that would be a good one to clear up, because I know that some people seem to be thinking that they can, just by using schema or LD, Json-Ld, whatever, that they're going to get a boost in rankings directly because Google likes seeing it.
Yeah. And I think direct is a key word, which is often, and it depends. No. The Google's line is there's no direct connection. So they have the machines that pull in the structured data, and then that information is shareable between the departments. So different departments, like the ranking department, can look at it. The search department obviously look at it to add features to the search results. It's also used for the advertising department. So the Google Merchant Feed double checks product information via the structured data on the site. So they pull it in and share the information. They say the ranking department doesn't look at it. Saying that, there's the indirect, which is if you're getting enhanced features, you're going to stand out more. And in fact, some argue that can actually cause more traffic. Some say it can cause less. Prime example is the recent FAQ pages or how-tos. And you're basically telling Google a lot of information about the content of your page that they're putting straight into the search results, so people don't actually have to go to your page anymore. And there's the argument on whether that's good or bad, and it's pretty much down to your own situation. If you're requiring people to go to your site to, say, see adverts, then you probably don't want to give people the answer within Google. But if you're wanting to attract people to make them aware of services you offer, then standing out in Google is better. So you got to kind of make your own decision on whether those features are beneficial to your particular your circumstance.
Yeah, it's frustrating to see something repeated over and over. I mean, I've seen people emphatically preaching the fact that it will help your rankings because I did this and my rankings jumped 12 spots. Okay, well, that's not causation. That's a lucky shot in the dark.
Yeah. Like I do a lot of little experiments, but I'll never, like, if there is a coincidence of one experiment and a ranking change, it's just too small a data set. You've got to even if you've got a massive data set, the system is so complicated. It could happen. You could have done it just as an algorithm changed, and that was the reason, not the structured data. So I wouldn't chase it. Saying that, an interesting side is Google does look at more than that it tells you. In fact, I think John Mueller once said in one of his Hangouts, Mark up whatever you want. Try and give us as much information as you want. Go beyond what we're looking at. And the reason is that they sit there and monitor and watch what people are doing. And if something's done a lot, if it's very popular, that will flag and they'll go, you know what? Everybody's doing this widget markup. Let's support it. So there's no harm. Well, there's no harm in overdoing your markup, but at the same time, look at the guidelines because I see a lot of people getting a bit too clever, and so they're marking up this really clever product thing with a good example is you can mark up a more complex pricing structure, but they've gone beyond what Google understands, so they lose their special features. So I guess push the boundaries, but keep an eye on what Google actually says they do support, and make sure you continue to support that. It is an example that I've seen people losing review star or product information rich snippets because they're just being too clever. And you just simplify it down, dumb it down, reduce the risk, and you get them back.
Yeah, good point. I recently did a fact page on one of my sites, and I used Json-Ld. It was surprisingly simple to do. I expected it to be worse because I used to play around the edges of RDFA, which, simple and RDFA do not come in the same conversation. But
Yeah.
I was very pleasantly surprised how easy it was to learn how to do it. And I would encourage people who have the sort of site that it might be advantageous, if getting rich snippets is to your advantage, don't be leery of it because you're not a code monkey per se. Don't be nervous about going to look at it because you may be very pleasantly surprised. It's not that difficult to do. The one thing I would caution everybody is when you do it, use a testing tool and be sure you did it right. You don't want it, putting it up there wrong is going to do you more harm than good. Make sure it tests properly.
That's a good point. A lot of people use the old testing tool, which is the structured data testing tool. And it's still a good tool, but it's not exactly what Google sees. So they've now got a rich snippets testing tool. It's more focused on those features that do cause rich snippets, but its advantage is it uses Googlebot. So what it sees is what Googlebot sees, and so in fact you'll see also the Google Search Console now has that built in. So you're actually getting what they call rendered HTML being processed. So you can get scenarios with the structured data testing tool where it doesn't see things that actually happen. So I'd recommend if the feature you're going for is in the rich snippets testing tool, use that. But if it's not, you back away. So for example, FAQ page is supported, how-tos are supported. And as you say, the actual FAQ page is, when it comes down to it, it's a list of question and answers. There's 2 properties per entity that you're marking up. And so that is one where you can literally take the FAQ page example code and then just change the question to your question and change the answer to your answer, and then copy paste as for each one. In fact, we're working on something at the moment. It's top secret. I've been told I'm not allowed to talk too much about it. But we're trying to take it to a next level of simplicity. A lot of website owners can't get access to adding Json-Ld to their page or playing with microdata or RDFA. So we're trying to take it to the level where they can mark it up within their HTML editor. So they mark it up in an even simpler language, and we create the Json-Ld for them. And it's working very well, actually. We've just tested it on a few sites. In fact, FAQ page is really it's everywhere now. It's suddenly been, Google said we support it, and a lot of people doing it. And we've got one client who must have set up about 20 different pages using FAQs. And these are like their category pages, product pages. And now half their impressions in search show FAQs. So they've only needed to do a core set of pages, which are the ones that rank, and they are almost always showing an FAQ page, rich snippet. So it's still early days to see the benefits, but I think it's only been a week going, but it's amazing how just they implemented it within a day. That page is getting rich snippets. So that is, FAQ page seems to be a nice, easy entry if that matches what you're doing. I think for e-commerce, helping people out as much as possible is the benefit. You're pulling people into your website, you're gaining trust. So how-to is an FAQ page. How-to is quite a bit more complex, but you get an even richer snippet. So that would be the next level after doing an FAQ page. But how-tos actually give you, you get a series of images, and you get the snippet. It's a big snippet. And they're the new kids on the block as far as structured data go. And there's a lot of people getting in there. And I guess the thing about it doesn't help you rank, but if your competitors are doing it and you're not, you're going to look like that little blob in the corner.
Yep.
You're going to be one of the 10 blue links while they're one of the featured results.
Well, that's a nice overview, Tony. Appreciate it. This will be posted up on our site, and we'll be promoting it on Facebook as well. So anybody after the fact that has any questions, feel free to reach out. We normally, I like to reiterate, we like to get emailed questions from folks that we can address in these little webinars. So if you have any specific questions, whether it be about schema or some other topic, please go to mentorsontap.com or ask at mentorsontap.com and send us your questions, and we'll try to address them. If we don't know the answer, we'll find somebody like Tony who does.
And there's a Facebook page as well, isn't there?
Yeah, we do, and it's Mentors on Tap is the handle on Facebook, and that's on our site. Again, mentorsontap.com. We've got our different profile links on there. There's a number of videos on there. Like I say, this is episode 17, and we'll be hopefully continuing. So with that, thank you, Tony.
No worries.
Like I say, getting up in the zero dark early is very much appreciated. And
it's still dark.
We'll let you finish your tea. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Unfortunately, Steve had to duck out. He had the company show up. It's not 4 o'clock in the morning there, so he had to run out and keep the dogs from eating them alive. So everybody, have a great day, and thank you.